Good evening and welcome to FRCmedia News for Thursday, September 21st, 2017. I'm Keith Tebow. On tonight's show, we speak with Congressman Joseph Kennedy during a recent visit to Fall River. We talk about preparations you should take for a severe storm, and we take a sneak peek at what's happening this weekend on the Fall River Rail Trail. But first, let's check in with the news headlines of the week. We bring in Will Richmond, the digital news editor at the Fall River Herald News. Will, welcome.
Thanks, Keith. Good to be back.
Thanks for joining us. Let's start with a story that's online right now at the Herald News website and will probably be in tomorrow's paper. It's a continuation of the saga between Mayor Jaisal Correa and the Fall River Office of Economic Development. We've talked many times in the show this year about this incident where earlier this year there was a rift between FRCMedia and the mayor. FRCMedia, of course, housed for many years on the 6th floor of Government Center. The mayor, in effect, kicked them out. They're now at the Cherry and Webb Building downtown Fall River. The city also has cut some funding for FRCMedia, although FRCMedia still works with the Redevelopment Authority. And today, the FRCMedia Board of Directors met in executive session and in effect showed their support for their Executive Vice President Ken Fiola. Fill us in with more, Will, and what that means in terms of this riff.
Sure, yeah. If there was any hope of FRCMedia and the mayor's office coming to some kind of agreement on coming back together, it would appear that is over now. The FRCMedia board voted this morning to back Ken Fiola, to retain him as the Executive Vice President going forward and sort of respond to any sort of requests that they feel the mayor has made to remove Ken from that position. The board chairman, Frank Marchione, claimed at the meeting that the mayor went to the FRCMedia board and sought to have Ken removed. The mayor has since denied that claim in interviews he's done with us this morning. So it would seem the split over economic development will continue at least into the near future as we see how the mayor's race plays out over the next couple months.
Yeah, I know that one of the comments by Mr. Marchione was that they're at an impasse with the mayor. You had mentioned that there were some efforts earlier this summer that Mayor Correa said, and also the chair of FRCMedia, that there's possibility the two organizations, the city and FRCMedia, can continue to work with one another going forward. But apparently, as you said, again, recent accusations by FRCMedia that the mayor sought Ken Fiola to be fired will not be the case. FRCMedia is strongly supporting Mr. Fiola, and looks like that, again, the rift is again coming apart a little bit and growing as the two sides go forward. One of the things that was interesting to note was that FRCMedia still works with the Redevelopment Authority, which does a lot of economic development here in Fall River. And, Will, that hasn't changed, correct? FRCMedia still has an agreement to work with the Redevelopment Authority.
Right. So FRCMedia remains the staffing arm for the Redevelopment Authority. The Redevelopment Authority is in pretty good shape right now, considering that the land sale to Amazon for the fulfillment center up there. So, there's some money there to help the Redevelopment Authority in terms of paying their bills to FRCMedia and any future potential economic development opportunities that could require some cash.
And despite this disagreement continuing between FRCMedia and the mayor, one of the points that Mr. Marchione brought up today was things that are happening with the city, and they're still busy doing things. And one of the things that they brought up, which will lead me to our next story, was South Coast Rail. He mentioned that rail is really moving forward right now, and there was a meeting yesterday about South Coast Rail where it looks like the state is going to be investing in that Middleborough connection coming from Boston. It looks like they're going to be potentially building a new rail station in Middleborough, which will be used to ferry trains, if you will, from Boston all the way down to New Bedford, Fall River, and also the Cape. What's the latest with that?
Yeah, so Mass DOT and the MBTA announced this week that they feel the best option if they're going to route the first section of South Coast Rail through Middleborough and Lakeville is to build a new Middleborough station. There's currently one that exists in Lakeville. There had been some questions about how this would connect, if there might be a need to build a train that would run from Lakeville to Middleborough. That does not appear to be what the case will be at this point. So they're saying the best option is to build a new Middleborough station, provide some support services to commuters that would normally use Lakeville to get them to Middleborough and go from there. So it appears Mass DOT is continuing to push forward with the idea of creating the Middleborough extension, getting South Coast Rail up and running on that, and then still considering the Stoughton route, which would be the faster route down the line, if they can make that work out as well.
I know there was a follow-up story online as well about people in the Lakeville area where the current train station is located, which I think would be about a half mile or so from where this new station would be built. Concerns over that, but it looks like that the Mass DOT is not looking to close that Lakeville station, but actually use it as a stop heading toward Cape Cod. And this new Middleborough station is actually going to be closer, if built, to where the breakoff would be, where rail from Boston would jet out, if you will, toward Taunton and then to Fall River and New Bedford. So we will continue to follow that. And in terms of transportation, our final look at the news this week has to do with the rail trail, which is going to be dedicated this weekend, and we'll have more a little bit later on FRC Media News. But there was concerns earlier this week, last week as well, about a potential to have a road built that would cross the rail trail around Father Duval's Boulevard and Brayton Avenue. And the mayor was at a meeting on Monday basically saying that no, that's if there's an issue with this road, it won't go through. But I believe the city council passed a resolution to make this happen. So I guess what's next in terms of this road easement between Father Duval's Boulevard and Brayton Avenue?
And so given the mayor's commitment that the road won't happen if people don't want it there, the next step, it would seem, it would have to go back to the city council to rescind their previous vote. What the procedural process for that will be and how long that may take isn't exactly clear at this point, but that appears to be the way things are going. It comes after, this was approved back in February, so there's been quite a lag time in here. We're not sure how far along the owner of the mill may have been in terms of planning this and getting work done on it. But at this point, it would appear the road is going to die, and the rail trail will go on uninterrupted through that area of the city.
And again, dedication for the Alfred J. Lima Quikasham Rail Trail is set for this weekend. We'll have more coming up on FRC Media News in a little bit. All right, Will, what's coming up at the Herald over the next few days?
Sure. This weekend, we talked with two of the local leaders that are opposing each other in the fight for the increase in the $15 minimum wage. This is something that was at the State House earlier this week as legislators are thinking about a law that would address this, while another group with Fall River ties is pushing towards a ballot question that would get it before voters in 2018. So we talked with two local leaders on different sides of the fence to see where this might go in the near future.
Sounds good. All right, Will, we'll talk again next week. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too, Keith.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Here are some job descriptions on the latest hot jobs list from the Fall River Career Center. Itinerant Resource Teacher, Citizens for Citizens Head Start program located at 427 Robeson Street is looking for a full-time itinerant resource teacher to work with children with disabilities and implement positive behavior management plans for children with behavior issues. Job number 9534856. Bilingual Customer Account Advisor. Aaron's Incorporated, located at 390 Rhode Island Avenue in the Southway Plaza, is in need of a full-time bilingual customer account advisor to assist the customer accounts department with lease agreement renewals and support the overall needs of the store. Job number 9548800. Occupational Therapist. Rehab Care, located at 273 Oak Grove Avenue, is looking for a full-time occupational therapist to provide quality patient care to residents through exercise and the use of prosthetic devices. job number 954-7104. Bristol Community College, located at 777 Ellsbury Street, is looking to fulfill the following full-time positions. Business Marketing and Finance Instructor, job number 954-8415. Hospitality Casino Management Instructor, job number 954-8408. The Fall River Public School Department, located at 417 Rock Street, is looking to fulfill the following full-time positions for the 2017 and 2018 school year. Elementary Program Coordinator, job number 955-4445. Special Education Math Teacher, job number 954-0983. For more information on these or other positions, visit FRCmedianews.org or call the Fall River Career Center at 508-730-5000.
Welcome back. Massachusetts U.S. Congressman Joseph Kennedy III recently visited Citizens for Citizens Incorporated's main office located on Griffin Street in Fall River. The area's anti-poverty agency helps low-income families obtain fuel, utility, childcare, and over a dozen other financial aid assistance programs. FRC Media News interviewed Congressman Kennedy, who said he's working hard in Washington to keep federal funding coming to CFC.
I'm proud to be able to represent the people of Fall River in Congress, and so I try to get down here as often as we can when we're not stuck in Washington, and to be able to be down here and visit organizations like CFC that provide such essential services to members of our community. We've been hearing about them in the first couple minutes that we're here, about how important organizations like this are for folks that are working really hard and trying to make ends meet, but need a little additional help. And it's programs like this that I think are so essential to the backbone of our communities and communities like Fall River.
Now, what are you doing as a congressman to make sure none of these 22 programs get cut?
Look, there's a whole wide variety of issues that are before us in Congress that can be hugely detrimental to the success of programs like this. So first off is the vision of a federal budget put forth by the Trump administration that would cut literally billions and billions of dollars out of social safety net programs and assistance programs through direct cuts and then cuts through programs like community development block grants.
Congressman Kennedy also voiced concerns about President Trump's efforts to change the Affordable Health Care Act, which was put into place by former President Barack Obama.
I think the Bernie Sanders one-payer system.
So I think Senator Sanders is exactly right in terms of the value and the direction that the country needs to go in, making sure that everybody gets access to quality, affordable, accessible health care, and that we do have universal coverage in the system. He just introduced the bill a little over a day ago, so I'm still reviewing it. I think we've seen over the course of the last couple of months that the details here matter, and I got to go through it a little more carefully, but directionally and aspirationally, it's where we need to go.
Although Massachusetts has not been hit hard by hurricane activity, local officials are not ruling out the possibility in the future. FRC Media News spoke with Director of Emergency Management Richard Aguiar, whose office is located in Fall River's North End Fire Station, about what residents should do in the area in the event it experiences a hurricane.
Take precautions, don't procrastinate, because around here we procrastinate. We don't think it's going to happen to us, but one never knows. This morning I was speaking to the Public Works Director, and we actually got 500 sandbags from MEMA, just in case to be on standby. So it's always good to plan ahead and mitigate before something should happen. What I would always suggest to people is if we have an incoming storm, prepare yourselves. Get extra water, extra non-perishable foods, check on the elderly, fill up your car with gas. All the stuff that you take for granted, we should not take for granted.
But what about like personal safety?
So personal safety. If you are on life support, for an example, make sure you get extra batteries or call your supplier. If you know we're getting a storm and you're on oxygen, get extra oxygen cylinders. It's always good to have more than not enough in the event if we have to shelter in place. Shelter in place simply means is you're going to stay put where you are. We refer to supplies. You should have 3 days of water supply for how many people you have in your household. That's 3 days of water supply per person. There's a lot of different things that you can do to prepare. You want to fill your gas grill up with the propane tank, but leave it outside in case we lose power. You can cook. One of the things that you can do also is freeze soda bottles with water, and those will be frozen. Keep them in a cooler. The other thing you should do is fill your bathtub up with water, just in case you have a supply of water.
Tell us more about the bathtub filling.
So the bathtub filling, fill it up with water because you may need it to wash dishes, flush your toilet if we don't have any water supply. You never know what could happen during a hurricane. The filtration plant can go down and they can't pump the water to you, so it's always good to have an extra supply of water in your bathtub. Another good tip is, I read this, if you have a wash machine with the top loader, fill it up with ice, because you can keep stuff cold in your dishwasher or your washing machine. So there's a lot of different other ways you can keep things cold.
Museum in Fall River is reaching for the stars. According to Executive Director Joanne Sprague, starting this spring, a new space exhibit will be open for families to enjoy.
Well, we're very excited about the space exhibit that's going to be coming, and it's going to be very interactive. We're going to take this wonderful, beautiful courtroom, take advantage of its high ceilings and the dome, and so the middle of the room will feature a climbing apparatus, which I'm holding in my hands, is the drawing from the company that will be making this for us. So it will be a very gross motor skills. We want to make sure that kids are moving, and so everything on the second floor, we're calling it healthy living, healthy lifestyle. So the kids will continue to be able to exercise while they learn about the planets and the solar system and whatnot. So this will be the interactive piece to it.
And when they're not climbing and exploring, they get to be behind the control panel in some fun seats. Tell us about those.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we began purchasing, we had been looking, and the company actually we're buying most of the equipment from has all these extra pieces that you can buy, and looking at prices on some of these astronaut-looking chairs, outer space kind of chairs, and the price tags were like $5,000 to $7,000. So I went online and I started looking at Overstock.com and different ones, and found similar ones for like $400 or $500 instead. And thanks to St. Anne's Hospital, was willing to. They wanted to donate a piece, not necessarily just a donation. So I said, well, I found these really cool chairs, and we've got 2 more similar ones coming in. So they decided that would be their gift, and so we're having a lot of fun. So they'll be part of the control station. So we're going to have, bells and levers and things on the, as I mentioned, on the judge's bench, and so that will be a way to incorporate and I hope make some of the judges who previously served in this building happy.
We'll have more FRC Media News right after this.
Hi, I'd like to introduce you to Smokey. He's very shy, he's very reserved, and he's scared of the world around him. We discovered something very strange and unusual today. When his sisters moved into the room, he became more animated and more lively and more interested in life around him. But as you see here, while he's sitting with me, he's very frightened. He doesn't know what to think of what's going on with his life. Smokey's 2 years old. He came from a hoarding situation. His sisters are Caramel and Angel. If you're interested in him, and maybe them too, you should come and visit him.
Today we have Hayes. He is a pit bull. He is around 5 years old. He was brought in as an owner surrender. This loving boy would be your best buddy. He is not neutered yet, but he will be due for that soon. He is not good with kids only because he does not like being restrained. That's the only downfall. He's not good with other dogs or cats, and other dogs don't really respect space, so he likes to have a space when it comes to other animals. So if you would like to meet Hayes or are interested in him, I highly recommend you come in and meet him. We are located at 300 Linwood Ave. We're at the end. And you come hang out with him. We're open every day 11 to 4, besides for Wednesdays and major holidays. So come down and meet him.
As we mentioned earlier in the show, the Alfred J. Lima Quikasham Rail Trail is gearing up for its official dedication ceremony this Saturday. Active Healthy Living Coordinator Janice Veloso explains the dedication will include many activities, including a look back at the city's textile industry.
Dave Jennings, the local historian, has a huge collection of textile artifacts, and he's very knowledgeable in the textile industries from the late 1800s, early 1900s. And he's going to have his display available, and we'll be talking to people and explaining what the items were used for, how the mills were operated. In conjunction with that, we're also having a display of pictures of children of the mills, the children who worked there. People would be surprised to learn that children as early as 5 and 6 years old were working in the mills. And we will also be having a photo opportunity. We're going to have a board where people can put their heads in and take pictures as mill children.
That's really cool, actually. Now, is this Dave Jennings' personal collection, or is it part of the Durfee Lafayette House?
I believe it's part of the Durfee Lafayette House. It might also be his personal collection, but I think it's part of the Durfee Lafayette House. He also has lots of costumes, too, which he's lent to us before in some history walks. Last year we had UMass Dartmouth students dressed up as workers in the mills. We have a lady from Fairhaven who's going to come down, Mary Lou Nicholson, and she will be presenting on what the life is of a discarded cigarette butt and what happens to it when you throw it on the ground. It just doesn't sit on the ground and go away.
No, as a matter of fact, you were saying that they get eaten, unfortunately.
They do. They find their way into the water, and animals think they're food. They can't make a distinction between what is food and what isn't, and they'll eat it. It looks like food, they'll eat it. And so a lot of our wildlife gets sick because of discarded cigarette butts.
So tell us about the turtle display.
Bob Shank from Animal Instincts will be there, and he is going to have turtles. He's going to be talking about why it's important to leave the turtle in their habitat and what their importance is in the ecosystem here. And he has told us that he has a few turtles that he's rehabbed, and people have actually been taking the turtles out of the river. And when they decide that they cannot keep them in their house, they've been bringing them over to Bob at Animal Instincts to rehab. And he has some that he's actually going to release during the event.
That'll do it for this edition of FRC Media News. You can catch FRC Media News Thursdays and Fridays at 6 p.m. and online 24/7 at frcmedianews.org. For all of us here at FRC Media News, I'm Keith Tebow. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Thursday.